kaya po nagiging importante na kailangan po natin munang pag-aralan hanggang saan eksakto pong coordinates ba ng ating West Philippine Sea. Dito po sa binabanggit nating mga batas sa ngayon, kung titingnan natin, hindi po natin sila magagamit, Mr. President. Kaya napakahirap po ngayon nating sagupain yung mga pananaw na parang may nag-aangkin ng atin pero hindi pa natin ma-define kung ano talaga yung atin. Kaya po dito ako nagsisimula, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I may be allowed, again, I don't see the point. Are we trying to say here that the arbitral ruling was erroneous, and therefore we should stop claiming what was awarded us? I don't see the logic, Mr. President. We were awarded by the arbitral tribunal. It is ours. Now, is the gentleman saying the tribunal was mistaken, and therefore what was awarded to us should not have been awarded to us because of these problematic, well, at least from the point of view of the good senator, problematic definition of what the West Philippine Sea is? I beg to disagree, Mr. President.
Mr. President, in the sponsorship speech of the Honorable Senator from Pampanga and Quezon City, he said that the resolution will signal our resolve to prevent China from claiming 500,000 square kilometers of our exclusive economic zone. I'd like to ask the gentleman, Mr. President, where did he get his data of 500,000 square kilometers?
Yes, Mr. President, the data was taken from the computations based on the Philippines 200 nautical miles exclusive economic zone, Mr. President, and juxtaposed with the claim of China in the 10-dash line, wherein about 90% of the West Philippine Sea, South China Sea, is being claimed by them.
Mr. President, is the gentleman aware that there is a post from the National Security Council of the Philippines saying that our West Philippine Sea is approximately 381,000 square kilometers?
300,000 square kilometers, Mr. President. Are they referring to our exclusive economic zone or our territorial sea, or may we be clarified?
Our exclusive economic zone with respect to the West Philippine Sea, Mr. President.
Mr. President, I'd like to clarify. I'd like to be clarified, rather, because the data that was provided us by the advisors to the Philippine delegation to the to the Hague, the International Arbitral Tribunal, provided the amount of approximately about 500,000 square kilometers. So we will have to clarify that, we would like to be clarified, Mr. President, as to the data. But having said that, assuming it's 345,000 square kilometers, that is still double, pretty much, or almost more than, or close to double, our land mass. In other words, it is a huge amount of exclusive economic zone being claimed by China. That we have sovereign rights over our territorial sea, as well as we have exclusive rights over our exclusive economic zone, which includes, as the gentleman has mentioned, at least from his data, 360,000 plus square kilometers. Mas malaki pa sa ating lupain. Kaya hindi maaari nating hayaan na lamang na aangkinin at ng ibang bansa, lalo na ang China.
Mr. President, I'm making this clarification because I would like to believe that the resolution is particularly related to our claim in the South China Sea, part of which is now being called the West Philippine Sea. According to the National Security Council, our exclusive economic zone in relation to that is only 381,000 square kilometers. And that is the principal interest in relation to the sponsorship speech in connection with the resolution under consideration. Mr. President, I would like to correct that because the 500,000 does not exist, Mr. President, because as I will discuss later, in Magallanes versus Ermita, this is a jurisprudence that was penned in relation to the conflicting maritime area in Republic Act 3046 and Republic Act 9522. Our Supreme Court had the opportunity, Mr. President, of adjudicating that our total exclusive economic zone, not only in the West Philippine Sea but in the other rest of the world, is only 382,669. This is already in the jurisprudence, Mr. President.
Thank you for that, Mr. President. We are currently securing the information that was relayed to us by Justice Carpio, and therefore, assuming for the sake of argument that it is 345,000 square kilometers, it does not remove the fact that that is a huge amount of our economic zone that is being aggressively taken over by China.
The only reason, Mr. President, that I'm trying to specify the exact area of our exclusive economic zone, because the next question is, would the Honorable Senator agree that in law a claim to land or waters must be defined by metes and bounds?
Mr. President, we, with the indulgence of the good senator, we already have an arbitrary ruling in our favor. So the metes and bounds is no longer debatable. The arbitral ruling has awarded the Philippines and recognized our claim vis-a-vis China. It has rejected China's 9-line, 9-line claim and has upheld the Philippines' position that what China is doing within the exclusive economic zone of the Philippines is illegal. And therefore, the debate as to whether there are metes and bounds is moot. We can debate until kingdom come, but that will not change the arbitral ruling in our favor, Mr. President.
That is not entirely correct, Mr. President, and I beg to disagree. The reason why I'm asking the gentleman for the metes and bounds to our claim on our maritime rights is because until today, I would like to believe that there has not been any specific computation or coordinates of the West Philippine Sea. I'd like to ask if is the limit of our exclusive economic zone is specifically the 200 nautical miles from our archipelagic baseline, or is it provided under Administrative Order Number 29, the westernmost boundary of the Kalayaan Island Group, as defined under Presidential Decree 5096, or is it defined under Republic Act 9522 of 2009, or Republic Act number 12064 of 2024? The question, Mr. President, is very significant because we would like to specifically determine the extent of our West Philippine Sea. Because if we are unable to do that, baka mahirapan po tayong ipagtanggol hanggang saan ang sa atin. So can we at least have an answer?
Mr. President, hindi na natin kailangang ipagtanggol ang nasa atin. Napagpasahan na ng International Arbitral Tribunal. There is nothing to defend. It has been resolved in our favor. What we have to now defend and uphold is the ruling.
Mr. President, I think the gentleman from Pampanga and Quezon City is looking at the arbitral award as it is. I'm not saying that, of course, we won the EEZ, but it is still incumbent for our country, Mr. President, to define our West Philippine Sea. Because until now, as we will discuss later with the indulgence of the gentleman, we need to look at the coordinates, Mr. President. I'm only asking whether the basis of the West Philippine Sea is the 200 nautical miles from the archipelagic baselines. Because as the defense establishment say it, Mr. President, it is the approximation of our exclusive economic zone. Our exclusive economic zone is 200 nautical miles from our archipelagic baseline. So, can we assume that are we proceeding from there? Or are we defining the extent of our WPS from Executive or Administrative Order number 29, Presidential Decree 1596, Republic Act 9522, o Republic Act 12064? Kasi kailangan po natin ma-define muna, Mr. President. Totoo po na ang arbitral award, in-invalidate po yung 9-dash line. Tama po yun. Pero hanggang doon lang, hindi naman sinabi ng arbitral award kung hanggang saan ang hangganan ng ating West Philippine Sea. That's why I am asking the gentleman kung alam po niya kung saan tayo magsisimula para sa ganon, i-determine natin, i-ascertain natin ang extent ng ating West Philippine Sea.
Yes, if I may reiterate, Mr. President, we see the point being raised by Senator Marcoleta. He mentioned Administrative Order number 29, which defines the West Philippine Sea. It was issued in 2012. On the other hand, in addition, we have the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, or Republic Act number 12064, enacted in 2024. These are government records that recognize the West Philippine Sea in official documents, and under the UNCLOS, which grants the Philippines the EEZ extending to up to 200 nautical miles from its coastline. This is the law. There is an administrative order, and of course there is UNCLOS. It is the position of this representation, Mr. President, that all three, UNCLOS, Administrative Order number 29, issued in 2012, and Republic Act 12064, enacted in 2024, are sufficient to be able to establish our exclusive economic zone as well as our territorial sea, Mr. President.
So, Mr. President, if the answer is that Administrative Order number 29, which is the westernmost boundary of the Kalayaan Island Group, as defined under Presidential Decree 1596, is the very source of our determination of the West Philippine Sea,
Together with, Mr. President, the Philippine Maritime Zones Act, taken in conjunction with. So it's the AO 29 as well as RA 12064 and finally UNCLOS.
Yes, Mr. President, isa-isa lang natin. Doon muna tayo sa Administrative Order number 29, which confirmed Presidential Decree 1596. Mr. President, under PD 1596, President Marcos Sr. drew boundaries around certain features of this Spratly Island and called the enclosed area as Kalayaan Island Group. At that time, there was no exclusive economic zone yet under the UNCLOS. However, is the Honorable Senator aware that in 2016, the South China Sea Arbitral Tribunal declared the boundaries of the Kalayaan Island Group as contrary to the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea?
Well, Mr. President, I'm not familiar with the particular findings, but that is, to me, again, immaterial in the context of the award of the International Tribunal.
That will not be immaterial, Mr. President, with all due respect. Kasi nga po talagang sinisino natin, dinidetermine natin kung gagamitin po natin yung Presidential Decree 1596. Sabi po ng Arbitral Tribunal, contrary po yun sa UN Convention of the Law of the Sea. Basahin po ninyo yung Arbitral Award. Nandun po yun sa paragraphs 573 to paragraphs 576. Sabi po niya, China and the Philippines has no right to enclose the Spratly Islands with the system of archipelagic or strait baselines, as though there is a single group islands or an offshore archipelago. Yun po yung sinabi. Kaya nga po, I am pointing this out, hindi natin magagamit yung 1596, not even Administrative Order 29. Kung sasabihin naman po natin, Mr. President, yung 9522, nabanggit nila, is the Honorable Senator aware that Republic Act 9522 merely defined the Philippine archipelagic baselines from which to measure the territorial sea, exclusive economic zone, and continental shelf. Yun lang po ang ginawa noong 9522. Wala po siyang kinalaman in the determination of the exact area of the West Philippine Sea. Na-define lang po yung mga baselines natin para doon natin kwentahin yung ating territorial sea, yung ating exclusive economic zone, at saka yung ating continental shelf. Alam natin, ang EEZ at saka continental shelf, 200 nautical miles from the baseline. Territorial sea is 12 nautical miles from the baseline. Ngayon po, Mr. President, kung halimbawa ay babanggitin natin ang Republic Act 12064, ito po yung 2024 law, ang may problema po ito Section 2 of Republic Act number 12064 defines the West Philippine Sea as follows. The maritime zones of the Philippines on the western side of the Philippine archipelago, including the Luzon Sea and the territorial seas of Bajo de Masinloc and the maritime features of the Kalayaan Island Group, shall collectively called the West Philippine Sea. Ano pong problema nito, Mr. President, Your Honor? Based on that definition, would the Honorable Senator agree that the westernmost limits has two elements? Yung 200 nautical mile limit of the Philippine Exclusive Economic Zone and Continental Shelf, and the 12 nautical limit of the enclave territorial sea of high tide elevations of Kalayaan Island Group, including those outside the Philippines Exclusive Economic Zone. Hindi rin po natin magagamit yung 200 nautical mile limit, Mr. President. Bakit po? Alam po ba ng ating honorable gentleman from Pampanga and Quezon City na pag ginamit po natin yung West Philippine Sea na 200 nautical mile limit ng ating exclusive economic zone, 17 features po ng Kalayaan Island Group ang mawawala sapagkat wala po siya. Hindi siya na-enclose ng 200 nautical miles. Alam din po ba ng ating Honorable Senator, that four of those features would fall outside the definition of the West Philippine Sea as occupied by the Philippines. Ito pong apat na ito ay okupado na ng ating bansa. Ngunit wala po siya sa 200 nautical miles eh. Katulad po ng Pag-asa na tinatawag na Tito Island. It's 227 nautical miles to Palawan. Parola or Northeast K, 240.2 nautical miles to Palawan.
I don't see the...
Kota or Laita Island is 207 nautical miles to Palawan. And Lakiam K, 203.7 nautical miles to Palawan. Are you aware, Mr. President, that these features are separated by high seas? Ito pa po ang problema eh. Kaya po nagiging importante na kailangan po natin munang pag-aralan hanggang saan eksakto po ang coordinates ba ng ating West Philippine Sea. Dito po sa binabanggit nating mga batas sa ngayon, kung titingnan natin, hindi po natin sila magagamit, Mr. President. Kaya napakahirap po ngayon nating sagupain yung mga pananaw na parang may nag-aangkin ng atin pero hindi pa natin ma-define kung ano talaga yung atin. Kaya po dito ako nagsisimula, Mr. President.
Mr. President, if I may be allowed, again, I don't see the point. Are we trying to say here that the arbitral ruling was erroneous and therefore we should stop claiming what was awarded us? I don't see the logic, Mr. President. We were awarded by the arbitral tribunal. It is ours. Now, is the gentleman saying the tribunal was mistaken and therefore what was awarded to us should not have been awarded to us because of these problematic, well, at least from the point of view of the good senator, problematic definition of what the West Philippine Sea is? I beg to disagree, Mr. President. Besides, the arbitral ruling did not touch on the issues being raised today by the good senator. And even if it did, assuming it did, hypothetically, we were still awarded, and we were our claim and our rights were recognized, and China's rights were rejected. Are we saying here now, Mr. President, that we have to go back to the arbitral ruling, to the tribunal, present a new definition of what constitutes West Philippine Sea so that they can amend or they can set aside the award? Please, I would appreciate being clarified.
Let me clarify, Mr. President. Are we getting the impression that the West Philippine Sea was awarded to us by the arbitral tribunal on a silver platter? Sinabi po niya kung nasaan yung ating mga coordinates?
Well, Mr. President,
tayo po ay merong entitlement sa 200...
Again, Mr. President, assuming that these have to be defined, I think we can define that by Philippine law. Assuming, I'm without conceding that there is no definition because we believe it has been properly defined. And yeah. The maritime base. Oh, we were not in the Senate then, but
Both of you were not the Senate. We already discussed it. We had the big billboard. It was, Mr. President, may I, Mr. President?
The majority leader
With
is
indulgence to
recognized
those who were
with
not
the permission
here.
of course,
Yes, with the permission of the two gentlemen.
Senators Pangilinan and Rodante Mac.
Yes, for the indulgence of our colleagues who were not here at the 19th Congress, namely Senator Pangilinan, yourself, Mr. Senate President Pro Tempore, the Senate President, and Senator Marcoleta. We had a long discussion on the floor approving the baseline, Philippine Baseline Maritime Zones Act. Dalawang batas yung pinasa ni Senator Tolentino, who was also the majority leader at the time. And I can clearly recall he would always perform his explanation on the middle podium with a blackboard, whiteboard rather, with a map. Pinapakita niya, pure, like a teacher, like a professor, showing the map of the Philippines and what it covers. So meron na po tayong approved and signed by the President a Republic Act on these two measures. It was the Philippine Baseline Law and the Philippine Archipelagic Sea Lanes. So maybe the two gentlemen can look into these two laws to see the exact coordinates that we approved as a law, as laws. This is Republic Act number 12065 and 12064.
With the permission of the three gentlemen, the Senate President is recognized.
With the permission of gentlemen, because this will be an interjection, just not really to join the conundrum, but Mr. President, I ask a question. Yung ban China, meron silang coordinates? Yung 9 dash line nila?
Wala.
Wala eh. Tayo nga may baseline eh. May baseline, 10 dash line na. Oh, may coordinates ba? Wala eh. Tayo nga may baseline survey law eh. Sila wala eh. Kung ano maangkinin kanila eh. So, I want to find out where are the coordinates of China in the West Philippine Sea.
Mr. President, may I request that pakiano nyo ngayong number 3?
Mr. President, while we're doing some administrative matters, just for the record, because earlier our data or our assertion that about 500,000 square kilometers of our exclusive economic zone and territorial sea and sovereign waters is being claimed. This was a lecture by retired Supreme Court Justice Carpio in his paper, West Philippine Sea Lecture, in the Philippine Social Science Council, hosted it February 2016, and I quote his, for the Philippines, what is at stake in the South China Sea are, number one, about 80% of its EEZ rather, comprising 381,000 square kilometers of maritime space, including the entire reed bank and part of the Malampaya gas field, and number two, 100% of its exclusive continental shelf, estimated at over 150,000 square kilometers of maritime space. Either the Philippines keeps this, and I quote, maritime entitlements, or we lose them to China, according to the retired justice. And he added, effectively, China's 9-dash line claim encroaches on over 531,000 square kilometers of Philippine EEZ and continental shelf, including all the fishery, oil, gas, and mineral resources found within this vast area, which is larger than the total land area of the Philippines. This Chinese aggression, according to Chief former Justice Carpio, is the gravest external threat to the Philippines since World War II.
Mr. President, ang binanggit niya kanina ay pinagsama-sama po niya yung exclusive economic zone at saka yung continental shelf. Talaga po nga abot kayo ng 500,000 square kilometers. Ang pinag-uusapan po natin, exclusive economic zone lang. Kaya po
Mr.
tayo
President.
nakukumpyos. Kanina po tinatanong kung merong coordinates ang China. Ayan po yung mapa ng China. Makikita po ninyo yung 6.1. Kapag yan po ay tiningnan ninyo at pinag-aralan po ninyo yan po ay nakatala doon sa International Hieroglyphics Organization or S23. Lahat po ng coordinates nandyan. Kaya nga po pinoproblema natin, hanggang ngayon, wala pa po tayong ganyan. Sana man lang yung West Philippine Sea, kapag ka lahat po ng kailangan ng United Nations, kasi bago po tayo makapagpatala ng ating sariling pangalan ng dagat, katulad ng West Philippine Sea, hindi lamang po declaration ang kailangan natin eh. Nagdi-declare tayo ng 200 nautical miles. Hindi naman po tayo nagdi-deposit ng mapa na may coordinates doon sa United Nations. Wala pong mangyayari. Yun po yung proseso eh. Tingnan po ninyo yan, 6.1, yan po yung South China Sea. Hindi po ninyo makikita ang West Philippine Sea. Kaya po tayo nagtatalo dahil yung ating West Philippine Sea, kailanman hindi mag-a-appear dyan hanggat hindi po nagagawa ni Commodore Tariela yung dapat niyang gawin. Imbes na gawa na siya ng gawa ng caricature, dapat mag-submit na siya nung mga coordinates na kailangan po para ngayon makapagpatala tayo ng sarili nating pangalan ng dagat. Ito nga po kaya ako, kahit napakahirap, ay gusto nating pag-aralang mabuti kasi dito po nagkakaroon ng hindi pagkakaunawaan. Akala natin may nangunguha ng saang ganang atin, samantalang yung sa ganang atin, hindi pa naman natin alam kung hanggang saan ba siya. Ang maganda sana, yung talagang exact coordinates, makukuha natin. Pero paano po natin magagawa, Mr. President? Ino-occupy natin, for example, yung munisipyo ng Pag-asa. Labas yun sa ating exclusive economic zone. Paano natin guguhitan yun halimbawa? Labas sa ating exclusive economic zone, samantalang yung Pag-asa, nandun na sa high seas. Hindi po pwede mangyayari, Mr. President, because that is violative of the UNCLOS. Hindi po tayo pwedeng tumahak sa high seas. At magliliprag po siya from the exclusive economic zone para enclose niya lamang, for example, yung Parola, yung Tito, yung sinabi nating 4 kanina na bahagi na inoccupy ng ating bansa, ngunit labas po ng exclusive economic zone. Paano ngayon yon? Eh di kapag ka sinabi natin, we were awarded our exclusive economic zone. O umalis na po tayo doon sa mga features na inoccupy natin ngayon. Simply because they are not enclosed by the West Philippine Sea na binabanggit natin. Kaya po ako nagsisimula dyan, Mr. President. Hindi po totoo na como sinabi ng arbitral award. Wala yung 9 dash line mo. China. Totoo naman yun eh. Because China was unable to prove by historic rights na talagang nasakop niya through the 9 dash line. Pero maliban doon, walang ginawa yung arbitral award eh. The arbitral tribunal did not adjudicate yung pamumosisyon nila sa mga features. Hindi naman niya sinabi, China, umalis ka na dyan sa mga inoccupy mong features. Meron ba siya sinabing gano'n? Wala po. And China continues to occupy those features. Meron din tayo. Meron din ang Vietnam. Kaya po disputed ngayon eh. Kahit na po in-award ang West Philippine Sea o yung ating exclusive economic zone, it's still a disputable waters. Dahil nga, wala pa tayong coordinates na isasubmit na nire-require po sa atin. This is the whole point, Mr. President.
Yes. If we may be allowed. Mr. President, gaya ng nabanggit kanina ng ating mga kasamahan, noong 2024 na ipasa yung RA 12064 nga at doon mismo dinebate Section 14, other maritime jurisdictions, the Philippines shall exercise all other maritime rights and jurisdictions in accordance with the UNCLOS, the South China Sea Arbitration, case number 2013-19, international law and other pertinent and regulations of the Philippines. Mr. President, we beg to disagree that the coordinates are not clear, that we have not been able to determine it. We have by law, we have by administrative order, and we have by the arbitral ruling. All these should suffice, Mr. President, for us to assert that China is illegally occupying parts of our exclusive economic zone and is claiming likewise 150,000 square kilometers of our continental shelf and 381,000 square kilometers of our EEZ. I mean, that should suffice for this, at least for this resolution to be passed. For the resolution that we are now tackling be adopted, Mr. President.
Mr. President,
In addition, Mr.
unfortunately-
President, in addition, if I may, the Kalayaan group of islands Kalayaan is a municipality of Palawan.
Pag-asa is a barangay.
Yes. And therefore, the exclusive economic zone as defined in UNCLOS provides that it is a sea area extending up to 200 nautical miles from a coastal state's baseline. So the baseline would be the Kalayaan group, and 200 nautical miles from the Kalayaan group. So I do not see how the Kalayaan Islands is outside of our exclusive economic zone. I beg to disagree, Mr. President.
Just for the record, no, the Pag-asa Island is a barangay of the Kalayaan Island Group under the province of Palawan.
Yes. And it is 445 kilometers away from Puerto Princesa.